몰랐었어 네가 그렇게 예쁜지 웨딩 드레스.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about how to do a fetch API call inside of React. I'd be talking first. I already have the answer, and I'm gonna kind of walk through it and then build it together. So first of all, I have index.js. That's just the top level index.js under source folder, and that's where I'm gonna be writing all the logic. So currently we have React and useState is going to be used, managing state and useEffect. And useEffect will does get involved in the fetching of the API. So there's a function here, and it ends at 9:35. And the name of the function is GitHub users, and later I am returning that. I'm putting that inside of app a component, and I am passing the app component here, and anything that app is doing is just passing GitHub user function into the app component, and which is going to, it is another component itself too. So here we have GitHub users, and then in here we're setting the use state. The initial value for use state is null. So if you look in here, currently it's, well, I guess it's already sending the information. So here you already see all the user data. However, if there's no data, then it will be empty. And then data is the variable that I am setting the initial data, and then set data is a function that will be working to update the use state. So I am wrapping it with a useEffect function, and that function it's all the way to 9:17. It takes two arguments. One is a callback right here, and then the other is the second argument. This is an optional array, and it only works when the page renders. So it doesn't happen every time you have changes, but only when the page renders. So it only happens one time. Here, so inside of callback, I am setting the URL that I'm fetching the information. So if we look at the API GitHub users, let me go there. And it tells you all the list of data here. That's just API with all the information. So I am fetching this information. So I'm fetching that URL, and that then is going to get the promise, and the promise is in a format of .json. And then once we get that information, we are passing the JSON data into set data function, and set data function will manipulate it so that the state will get updated. And then I have a catch for any kind of error that happens. So now I have the data. So that data, I'm gonna map through it because there's 30 of them. And how I know it's 30 is if you just close that thing, it shows 30 items. And also I went to, I just copied the entire data and I just put it inside of variable users. And then I just call users and I got 30. And also I can do users.length and that shows you 30. And then inside of console, I just kind of play around with the data and I did user.map. And then each user is an object in here. And then I am wrapping it instead of li tag, HTML tag. And then I am using a string interpolation and I am putting JavaScript in here. So that's why I have curly and a $sign. And inside of each object, there is, this is a one example of an object that I am going through, which is user. And this user has many properties. And I just want to print out the login information. So I will say user.login, and then it will tell you the login value of each object. So as we see in here, the last one is login BMIZER. And you see the last one is BMIZER. So that's how it works. So I am convinced that it works when I do that map and I get an array of information and bunch of li tags. So then I go back in here and then I say if there's user data exist, then do this. And then I am mapping through all the array, which is the array of all this 30 items and each object. And then that map has second argument, optional argument, which is index. And I am putting index inside of the key attribute so that React doesn't get upset with me. React wants to know every child element gets the unique key. So key is almost like ID in HTML attributes. So, but then in React, we are just using key. So then I'm putting H1 for user login, and then this is looping through the user object dot login, and then I put an image tag, and I'm putting source as a user dot avatar URL, and as we see, avatar URL has this URL information, and if I just go straight there, it shows me person's face, so I know that this works. Then I also set the width of the picture so it doesn't look so big. So this is 70 pixel. When I don't put any unit, it just assumes that it's a pixel. And then alt is if we don't have the image showing, it still has used some kind of description about the photo, and I'm using user.login, just login information about this person. So it has a little, and then also screen reader can read that too. And then the third element would be a number of followers, and I just wanted to see how many followers this person have. So as we see from this code, this is what the result would be. And we can see it from the Elements tab, exactly how this comes out. So as we said, div is right here, the top level. And then it's got H1, and then it's got user login, and then the user's information is printed out there. And here's the image of the user. And as I said, I put it 70, so it's showing up at 70 width. And height gets correctly calculated to proportion to the way the picture was set. And the alt attributes is the user's login information. And H3 is a number of followers. And this person, I guess, didn't have the number of followers on information in here. So let's see. Maybe the number of follower information is wrong. So I'm gonna go look at here and debug. So users, okay, when I go to users, I don't see number of followers information, but let me see, followers URL, what is that? Followers URL. Don't see that information. Maybe we can do subscription URL, events type. Owner, subscription, organization. Let's see if this is going to give me something interesting. There, it's repo. It's got the repos. Maybe number of follower doesn't exist on this level, so perhaps I should just get rid of that. HTML URL. So if I look at that, it will take me to this person's. Oh, maybe this might be interesting to have. So go straight to, so I can change this to user site, user home. Maybe you can call it GitHub home. GitHub. Maybe you can say user.login. User logins, GitHub homepage. And we can say here, I think we can do anchor tag. Let's see. Anchor external URL. Use anchor to create links or external URL, HTML tag. I want a hyperlink. So I use a hyperlink anchor tag. Okay. So then I can copy this. And maybe we can do one page, and then we can wrap this in anchor tag. So let's see if I have this, and I can put user information inside of here. And users logins, GitHub page, and URL would be user dot user dot URL. Let's see if this worked. Okay, so if I click on this, it takes me the users. It needs to go to a tag. Maybe we can say, it's kind of weird. Try going back there. What does it? H3. users, user URL. So that's not the right one. Oh, it's a repo URL. So I want to do user repo URL. Let's try that again. Users. Oh, is it the HTML URL? It might be the HTML URL. Let's try that. HTML URL. Just gonna do localhost 3000. So if I click on here, cool, it's taking me to this person's URL. And I think maybe I want it open a target. I think I can do, oops, target attribute. I want it to open it at a blank. So target equals a blank. Blank. Localhost 3000. If I click on it, it will open up in a new blank and it will keep this open, which I want. Cool. So I think we have that happening for each one. So let's try to build this together. So I'm going to just copy this entire code. Put it here. Okay, so let me try to get rid of some of the stuff here. Terminal. And then I'll just do H1. Okay, so now let's see how this one looks. So the very beginning is just hello. And let's see, GitHub users. So I'm gonna do a fetch for the GitHub users. So very first step I want to do is set the use state. So then here I'm going to do fetching data from GitHub API, which is HTTP API GitHub users. And if you look here, you can see all this data here. So I'm gonna fetch data from this information, and I'm gonna manage the state by using use state. So equals use state, and the initial value, I'm gonna set it for as a null. Okay, and then the variable I'm gonna set as the initial value going to be data. So in here, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this instead of useEffect, because useEffect it enables you to decouple the rendering of the component and like side effects. And one of the side effects that we're doing right now is calling API call. Another side effect would be DOM manipulation. but this time we're using API call. So I'm going to do useEffect, and notice that I imported these two hooks so that it lives in this file. So useEffect, and then I'm gonna do a callback, and I'm gonna pass in the optional array. So let me see. Just want to explain on here. useEffect dependency array. So this is called dependency array. And what happens is useEffect will log out each value altogether, but we only want the value that is getting changed. So therefore, we want to use dependency array so that only the changes are logged to the console. So like what happens with sending dependency array is that it will only happen when we're passing just an empty dependency array. It will only run once, and the one time that it runs is when the site renders. So like I think that call it React lifecycle called when I think it's called something like mounted. So when mounted, then it will be called. So that's why we're passing in this information. If we don't pass that in, it will continuously call the GitHub users, and it will not be, that's not what I want to do. I only want to show the data once when DOM renders. So I'm passing the dependency array here, empty dependency array. So let's go back to my info. Yeah, and then I want to, inside my callback, I want to put in the logic. So let me just press semicolon, and I'm going to open this up. And this is where the logic goes. And I'm going to be calling the fetch API. So I'm going to fetching GitHub users data and const URL, and the URL for that is what we had here. Put in here. And I want to see, let me see, I think I can do fetch. And then I'm putting this variable URL in here. So go fetch this URL and .then. And in here, I'm going to massage the data to look human readable. So I'm passing a promise, but then a promise will be response.json. So then I do that then here, and I want to see how the data look. So I'm going to say data and console.log data. I'm going to just call it data JSON data. And then I'm going to do data. So it will get the data in my console, and then dot catch. If there's any error, I want to catch it. And the information will be sent to me by the error object, and it will be console. It's on the console, and then we can call it error and then pass the arrow. Okay, so Now I have a GitHub users component. I want to pass it into the app, and then that app will be passed into the render function. So return GitHub users. Okay, so let me look. And then nothing was GitHub users, nothing was returned from render. This usually means return statement is missing. Okay, so I am missing a return statement here. So I'm gonna do return return data. Then in my now it's returning data because the data is the variable that I'm putting, and the variable now has this data in line 16. So we can tell that data is these data that we got. So I'm comfortable now that I have access to this data. So now I can play with this data. So now I'm gonna actually call useState, well, set data. So what happens now is now I have the data. I want to call set data function so that it updates the state of the function. So then I'm gonna call set data here, set data. So now we have a set data. So once that gets passed, now I can manipulate it. Now it gets updated to the state. So like this UI gets updated now. So if I look in here right now, we can do current GitHub users. The objects are not valid as a React. Okay, so it's upset because I need to make it more readable. So I'm gonna now massage the data so it's more readable. Now let me see. So I'm gonna do if we have the data, like let's say if there's no user data, then we don't want to pass it. But if that's true, so that means this one returns string of massaged data HTML string from API call. And we can say inside here, I can do, it can return so that it exits the function. And if there, in this part here, I'm doing, if there is no user data return from API call, then I want to just pass null and it'll be blank. Okay. And then here, I can also, again, do console dot log data. Then we can say data. So we can see exactly what this console is about. Passing this here. That. So error handling maybe doesn't work that way. Let's see. So it does give me the data information, but there's a bunch of errors. Random behavior. Okay. So it's not getting any information, but at least we know that this data is also exist inside of this loop right here. So now I want to now input it into the UI, and I can make this data more readable. So what I do is I do JSON.stringify, and then the first argument is the data object, and then you can actually, and the null is something that you just put in, and then /t \t is make it look pretty. So let's do that. So then now the data looking a little bit more prettier to see because it's all in its own like line of stuff. Anyway, so now I want to return the actual string of HTML. So in here, now I'm gonna do get the data, and data is an array. And how that array look like, it's like this. It's an array with an object in here. So data.map, and map has, it returns a brand new array. And then I'm gonna pass the, instead of map, I'm gonna have to do each item of the inside of array, which is this whole item here. So I will call this user. And then I'm gonna also pass the optional index that map comes with out of box. And I want to pass, let me see, user index. Okay, so in here now I want to semicolon, and I'm just going to put an enter in here. It's going to be div. I'm going to wrap it in div and pass the key, and key would have index, and this is the child element, and each child element should have a unique key for React to not complain. Then I'm gonna pass the h1 tag, and I'm gonna do user login, and I do it curly because this is a JavaScript, user.login. And I know this because I look at this data format, and it's a user.login here. And the next thing I'm going to pass in is going to be, I want to see their face. So image tag, and inside image tag, I use source for image tag. And I'm going to put a user dot avatar URL. Just going to copy it here. And in here, what did I say? Okay, so because I'm not passing in any information, so I'm just gonna make it self-closing tag. So I'm gonna put it like that. And then width, I'm gonna put it 70. Let's say we didn't pass it, we can see how bad it looks. And then I'm gonna put alt. Oh, let's just not pass it. And you can see the error messages and we can put in stuff information together. And then for the link, the external linking, the hyperlink. So it starts with the anchor tag. And I'm gonna wrap the text in H3 in here. And I'm just gonna say user.login. It's the login information of the GitHub and GitHub homepage. Yeah, I think I put a little these things in. Okay, and put href. And inside of href, we want the user.html URL, which you get it from HTML URL, and that's the GitHub URL of their homepage. So I'm gonna do user.html URL. And then when I click on it, I want it to like not click on the same page that I'm on. I want it to go to the separate page. And to do that, you just do target and blank. So let's look at doesn't like semicolon inside there. It's very picky. So it doesn't want that, but it's okay here. Okay. Let's look at the page. Cool, user login. So you see how like the pictures are really big for some of them. So now I'm gonna change the picture. So image and then setting the width to 70. Let's remove that. So now it's all good. But then I kind of want to get rid of these warnings. And it says image must have alt prop. So I'm gonna go ahead and put alt prop attribute. And I'm gonna say user.login. So we'll do that. Now using target without relative no refer is security risk. Okay, so if I pass that in, so then now it all goes away. So then we can check if it works. So then it goes to a new site. Let's make sure that it works for this person. Cool, so it's all working. So that's all I have. Thank you. I guess we can kind of talk about it one last time, what's going on in here. So first time, data is a variable initial value, and set data is the what changes the state of the component. So we can manage the states. So therefore, we are setting the data and then passing it into set data. And once we have that, then set data will update the UI. In here, we want to make sure that data is user data exists, and I am returning what output I get from this map. So it's a string of HTML data, and it results to this. And map has optional index, so I'm putting key as an index, which is unique for each one. And user is each object instead of an array of data. So going into all the key of each thing that I am interested in putting in the page. And I learned that today that when you do target, when the page opens in a blank, that you want to add relative attribute called no referrer. And a tag, anchor tag is for the hyperlink, and image is for the image, and then you're passing the information where the image lives in source tag. And again, here, if there's catching anytime that URL doesn't go to any user information, then it returns null. And then I have created another functional component called app, and all it does is it just passes the GitHub user information here, and it returns the GitHub user component, and I am just passing in the app component in there, and it's just rendering the information.